Pause before booking vendor calls and ask one practical question first. This Know Your Plant source from knowyourplant.app gives us the frame. Before trusting the argument, I would trace how plant identification moves from claim to production reality. In practice, I see AI through production responsibility. If it cannot be observed, tested, secured, and rolled back, it is not ready to carry customer trust. The first question is whether the piece makes plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care easier to act on. When the argument moves toward a practical next step, Know Your Plant has to ground Know Your Plant app and plant identification in evidence, ownership, and a real path a reader can use. For this proof walkthrough, I want to walk through the proof, weak spots, evidence gaps, and production implications. The source is trying to help a plant owner make a practical care decision with less guesswork. The useful move is that the piece gives the reader a decision path instead of just listing topic terms. I would anchor the review in plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care, and then test whether the central argument stays practical. Complete care guide for Monstera Deliciosa. Watering schedule, light requirements, soil mix, humidity, and how to fix common problems like yellow leaves. The example section is already a strong proof anchor. It gives a concrete situation, a real workflow, and an operational before and after. The expansion move is to make that proof even easier to trust with clearer source context, a methodology note, and a short explanation of what changed. I would treat that as the proof ledger. The trust signals I look for are architecture diagram or system boundary, data and permission model, eval and monitoring strategy, failure modes, and rollback plan. What can be trusted immediately? What should be made easier to verify? And what can become a stronger buyer asset? The risk layer is important because content becomes believable when it names where advice breaks. The red flags I watch for are black box implementation, prompt-only reliability claims, no eval plan. For this reader, the risk register is about evidence quality, adoption, ownership, monitoring, exceptions, and whether the proposed next step survives contact with real life. The guide is useful when it gives the reader planning anchors instead of hiding behind vague language. Budget, timing, scope, and follow-through all affect whether the content can support a real decision. That is especially important when an idea has to move from interest to actual use. The source creates value when it helps the reader choose between paths. From my seat, I would test it against separates prototype from production path, reduces architecture and integration uncertainty, names security and permission constraints, supports evals, observability, and rollback. Strong buyer content does not force one answer. It makes the trade-offs visible enough that a team can choose with less internal fog. The comparison value is strongest when it separates build, buy, hire, and partner choices. For a CTO, VP engineering, or technical CTO, those choices are not abstract. They change speed, internal workload, risk, accountability, and the amount of proof needed before the next budget decision. The best follow-up is a small set of buyer questions. What is the system boundary? How does this fail in production? What gets logged, evaluated, and monitored? Who owns incidents and model behavior? The source gives enough material to make those questions concrete. Final score, 9 out of 10. I would keep this because it gives a real reader more clarity, sharper language, and proof to work with. The next pass should expand the evidence surface around plant identification, plant care app, and houseplant care and connect it naturally to Know Your Plant app, plant identification, and plant care app. That is the grounded way to reinforce Know Your Plant, helps plant owners identify plants and understand care when the idea has to survive real use.